Hey folks, Mel the Train Tutor back in the studio and back with a bit of a, well, it's a mixture between a quick tips and a back to basics guide. It's something simple. I'm just recolouring lichen. I'm working on the Big Burma build. Yeah, I need some more realistic looking lichen, so I'm staining this, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you how I do it, because I haven't actually shown it on the channel before. Yeah, I know, surprise, eh? So what are we actually talking about? Right, this is the stuff we're talking about. Lichen. Yeah, I'm liking my lichen. Okay, you get it from hobby supplies, railway stores, all that sort of stuff, yeah? And quite often it comes in two different varieties. And what I mean by that is you can get this, yeah, which is sort of more drab colours, a mixture, and can generally go straight down onto terrain, yeah, quite happily. And then what normally happens is when you get these, you get them in bags like this, yeah? And you'll have some more realistic drab sort of colours, yeah, and then you'll have this bright vivid stuff. Now a little while ago I put some lichen on my Amazon wish list, and I didn't realise that the quantity I'd put on, and I ended up with quite a few bags of this stuff. And when I say this stuff, what I mean is really bright lichen. Now I've pulled out all the usable bits from my Big Burma build, but I've got to the stage where, you know, this stuff, I need more realistic colours and it's time to dye it. Now, I've already done this and I've been playing along so you can sort of see. And if I bring it up, yeah, this stuff here, yeah, which is lovely. Yeah, all these sort of mute natural colours, they all started out as that. Yeah, and so I'm going to show you how to basically stain them, get the realistic colours, get it so it's still nice and fluffy, yeah, nice and light, without making it into big clumps and that sort of stuff. And just basically turn this into something that's more realistic. Now, before we do that, we've got to talk a little bit about paint. Or first off, let's talk about lichen. Okay, lichen, this is a type of moss. Yeah, it's grown and preserved in vats and that sort of stuff. You can sort of like harvest it from the highlands, yeah, and pull it off rocks and stuff like this. But the stuff that's used for modelling is grown in big vats and that sort of stuff and on trays. And then it's stained with dyes and it's added a preservative. I can't remember whether it's glycerin or glycerol, but it's one of the glycers. My adult brain. But it's got a preservative in it that stops it going dry and and sort of brittle and breaking up. And keeps it, you know, which most natural things do when they dry out and age. Yeah, a bit like me. But we need to turn this into something more realistic. Yeah, now to do that, yeah, the manufacturers, when they do this, they use really strong inks. Yeah, we're going to use paint because it's just cheaper. Yeah, in our volume, what we're doing. Right, so when it comes to paints, what you want to do is you really want to use an acrylic paint over house paint. Acrylic paints have a far higher, higher sort of pigment count, far finer. So they give you a much better crossover of colour. The other thing is you need to water this down a little bit for it to soak through and that sort of stuff. When you water down house paints, they're made of composite colours and multiple colours put together to get the shade. So if you water them down too much, yeah, you get basically colour shifts and things like that you don't really want. So we're going to start off with, yeah, a little bit of green. Yeah, now this is sap green, but it's quite vivid. All artist acrylic paints come out vivid because you're designed to sort of desaturate them and mute them down yourself by adding the opposite colour in the colour wheel. Now don't worry about that, you don't need to know about colour wheels to desaturate and get this more realistically, because we're going to shotgun it, and all we're going to do is we're going to add some grey. Now if you add a mid-grey, you will just basically desaturate it, and the more grey you add to it, the greyer or drab it goes. Yeah, I've got a slightly darker grey here, yeah, and I'm just going to put that much in. Now, when I'm doing this, you'll notice I'm not mixing up a big batch. I am mixing up enough, yeah, to fill this tub with lichen and do a handful. The reason I'm doing it that way, and I'm not mixing it up into multiple I'm not mixing up one big batch and then constantly feeding it in, yeah, is because I actually want to, I actually want to have variation between the batches. If I do it in one big go, yeah, what you end up is one tone across all of it, and it's all monotone. If you vary it and you make up if you make up the little batches as you go, yeah, and desaturate and mix, you get a mixture of tones that you can then all mix up your batches together, and it just looks a lot more realistic. Yeah. So a bit more grey, because I fancy really drabbing this down a bit. Yeah, and you can start to see that colour is going nice and sort of drab now. So my next job is I'm going to scrape it into there. Next, into that, I'm going to add a little bit of water. You want to thin it down until it sort of like flows over but doesn't stick, if you know what I mean. So that's a little bit thick. And then the next bit is, you don't have to do this, yeah, but you can add a little bit of flow aid. So put that there. So got a little bit ISO here. I've got a little bit IPA. Just going to put a tiny little drop in. There you go, that's enough. And back to stirring. And that is the consistency we want. Yeah, that's thin enough that it will flow over everything nice and easily, whilst at the same time it's thick enough that it is going to coat our lichen, yeah, without any problems. So next thing is we need to actually do the lichen, and I'm going to glove up for this, so I'll be back in a sec. Right, so I've gloved up. Yeah, I'm going to grab my lichen, and you do this in parts. Yeah, you don't throw it all in at once. Push it in and use it like a sponge. Yeah, so it becomes absolutely saturated in the stuff. Yeah, and I start to squeeze it out and just leave it in there. Next, get the next bit in, and what you're going to do, yeah, is don't put this on top. Yeah, put it there, put this on top of it, and start to squeeze it. Yeah, so you've got the wet and the really soggy one on top of the fresh one, and as you squeeze it, it forces the paint down into that corner and it saturates the next one down. Yeah, so as you can see, we're starting to transfer the colours across. Yeah. Next, you're going to add a little bit more. Yeah. Put that on top and start to work it round. If at any point you start feeling like it's not flowing and it's not getting as far as it did, yeah, you can add a little bit of water in. Yeah, but you can only add it once. If you keep adding water to it, you'll just thin the paint down. Adding that little bit of water right now, all that's doing is helping to activate what's around the rim and get the last of the paint that's in this tub into this lichen. Yeah, grab it, squeeze it through. Yeah, let it settle at the bottom. Yeah, keep mixing it through. Yeah, grab it out. Squeeze it again. Yeah. Throw a bit more in to grab that. Yeah, and it's a kneading process. Don't worry about tearing up the lichen. Yeah, you won't have that. Won't be a problem. Yeah, it'll come out fine. It's really robust, this stuff is. Squeeze it out again. And once you've kept going and you get to the stage where all of a sudden it becomes light and fluffy, yeah, like it is there. Do you notice how it's not sticking to itself or anything like that. That means it's got just enough paint, yeah, that it's coated, but not so much that it's clumped. So next thing I'm doing is I'm just dragging it out, just looking in case there's any sort of really light bits. I'm just fluffing it in the tub. I'm giving it a good fluff, yeah. Now to dry this stuff, you need to put it on a plastic surface. A bin bag is fine, yeah. I've got some plastic sheets here, yeah, some acrylic sheets. They just work for me because they work around the desk a lot easier, yeah. Now, last thing I'm going to do is just basically give it a bit of a shuffle on the sheet. As I shuffle it around on the sheet, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the sheet itself and I'm looking if there's any like paint smears. Any paint smears would be a good indication, yeah, that there's there's excess paint on these. So as I'm moving it around, there's no real paint smears. I'll take that as, yeah, that's all fine. And then straight away you can sort of see that we've gone from that to a far more realistic colour. Now the next thing I want to do is, that's basically the whole technique. Yeah, all you need to do is leave this to dry. Leave it in a nice warm place to dry. Yeah, and and it'll be absolutely fine. Pretty typically it takes about 2 days. Yeah, or it takes 2 days in my studio, in a house or something like that. If you leave it in a warm kitchen or something like that, it'll be absolutely fine. When it does dry, what you'll find is it's still soft. If you find it's a little bit hard and that sort of stuff, then you didn't thin your paints down enough. Even so, don't worry about it if it's a little bit stiff, yeah, because at the end of the day, you were only going to put it on terrain and we're only going to seal it and stiffen it up anyway. So you're fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to batch out a few more batches so you can see how the colour mixing works, yeah, and how making different batches and individually they look different. So let me get cracked on with that. I'll come back when we've done that. Mixing done, hands clean. Let's have a look at the results. So there you have it. That's the bag mixed up. Took about 15 minutes to do the lot. You'll notice that some of these, yeah, they have much lighter textures. Okay, that's because one of the batches I mixed in a lighter grey, yeah, to drab it down, and then one of the other batches, yeah, I actually mixed in a little bit of yellow as well as the lighter grey. Mixing in yellow into green gives you that sort of spring colour, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and specifically, yeah, those sort of colours, which are drab and natural, yeah, i.e. they're not the vivid greens that you get when, you know, you pull it out, but they are spring-like. Now, these are wet, yeah, they're not clumping, they're all right, but what I've got to do is dry them out. So these are going to go in a warm, dry place, yeah, we'll dry those out. In the meantime, I'm going to use the ones I've already made to carry on with my Burma build, and then I'll come back once these are dry and show you these results. So they're all dry and they have come out great. Check them out. So there we have, and now you can sort of see why I said mix the colours in small batches. Now they're dry, you can see the variation in them. If I pick them up, yeah, you can see, you know, they're not crumbling or anything. It's lichen as you would expect lichen to be. There are a couple of little bits at the bottom where some of the paint has pulled and dried a little. That's not an issue. It's only a tiny little bit at the bottom, and actually kind of creates a flat base, but it's only on a couple of little bits. Yeah, generally this is why you want to squeeze the paint out of them. Yeah, because obviously as you let it sit, the paint will come down to the bottom and you'll get a bigger concentration. So the more you get out of it, the more you squeeze into other, yeah, the sort of softer and more pliable, yeah, your lichen will be. Now obviously here you can see I've got my light greens. Over here I've got my dark greens that I've already done, and what I'm going to do now is very quickly, yeah, just throw them all together, mix them all up, yeah, and this is just so I've got a nice random pool of lichen that I can pull out of, if you know what I mean. It's a bit excessive, so I throw that off. Yeah, and there you have it. Beautiful, beautiful lichen. Yeah, and remember, all of this, these colours, Yeah, you still get the twigs in it. Came from that. So, yeah, from vivid neon greens that you can't use in terrain to terrain colours. Yeah, that are perfect for your build. And when I say perfect for your build, I've been updating the Burma build, like I said. Yeah, and as you can see, when you throw them onto a piece like this, yeah, it just looks so much more realistic. So there you have it, guys. Remember, the key thing about this is using an acrylic paint as your main green. Yeah, it's okay to add a little bit of house paint for the grey to drab it down, but you really want an acrylic paint. A little bit of flow aid in there to get it flowing and to get it working right. And remember, when you're working it small batches, vary the sort of colours a little bit by making small batches, but above all, get it saturated and then get as much of the paint out as possible. You can strain it, you can put it in a sieve and push it and all that sort of stuff. I was just working it with my hands and adding more in, and it's still got great results. But above all, here you've got all the techniques for you to sort of put together everything you need to turn this stuff into this stuff. Now, I don't know how long I've been rambling for. I don't know if this is a quick tip video or a back to basics video, but what I do know is it's full of information, and I really hope you found it helpful. As always, if you have, links down below. If you've got any questions, get them in the comments. If you've got any experience, I'd like to hear that as well. I'm always looking to improve. Like it if you like it, sub if you're new here. And if you've not been to the channel before and you're not watching it and you really like what I'm doing, there are links down below to support what I do, You can either jump on the clan and Patreon, jump in with our clan builds and our clan gathering stuff and the vids and on there as well. Or you can send a one-off by PayPal, or you can jump on the kit list, and get me something from the Amazon to put in the studio. Right, that was a bit of a ramble. Above all, guys, if you found this useful, there's links down below to send a little joy my way and help me keep making these videos for you guys and putting a smile on my face. In the meantime, I've got some lovely lichen, and I'm going to get cracked on with my Burma build. So you'll be seeing that shortly. All the best, Ta-da!